a lot of guys will even go as far as to work on range of motion and stretching and these kinds of things. If you can't do those things, you cannot, you can't show your body the way that you need to show your body, which that's horrible. Yeah. Who's the greatest bodybuilder of all time?
Kenny Williams.
Kenny Williams.
Yeah, Kenny Williams.
Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman can move pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Ronnie Coleman can move really, really well, especially when he was younger. And he was posing and stuff. I mean, he's doing splits. I mean, he was incredible. Like, you don't think that guy like knows how to flex his rotator cuff or his rear delt, like just flex his rear delt and not move anything else. Like, you don't think that guy has absolutely incredible, not only range of motion, but like kinesthetic awareness and understanding of how to flex the smallest of muscles, like in the obliques or something like that. Like that guy's he's got all that shit figured out and then some. Like, he's a fucking genius when it comes to that kind of thing. So I think that sometimes we don't really understand the value of like movement and all these different things. And Ronnie Coleman learned it probably primarily through bodybuilding. He did bodybuilding and powerlifting, and he probably learned a lot of it. But there's a lot of people that bodybuild that don't take the time to do the smaller tasks of bodybuilding, like learning how to pose. And there's some people that never even compete. So because they don't compete, they might not understand that, like, you know, you do a certain pose, you twist a certain way, how difficult that is to make it look like you have no waist and then you have this fucking gigantic upper body. I mean, a lot of these guys have that. Ronnie Coleman had that just by standing there because he's Ronnie Coleman. But he also was able to make his appearance. Arnold was great at it. Remember, Arnold would throw up that one bicep with the other arm kind of back, and he just looked fucking ridiculous. Looked incredible. Well, there's a lot of dexterity to that. Like, go ahead and try it, and go ahead and try it for a half an hour, and mess around with it for a half an hour every day for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, or, you know, these guys, they spend a lot of time on their routine, and a lot of guys will even go as far as to work on range of motion and stretching and these kinds of things, so that they can. Otherwise, if you can't do those things, you cannot. You can't show your body the way that you need to show your body, which that's horrible. Right? You get yourself super jacked. You worked on everything, the diet, everything's good. And then it turns out that you're super stiff and can't even show what you just worked for.
One thing there's a few things that are really cool with what you mentioned, because I was watching you lift the other day when you were doing some stuff with the cables, and then you did a lat spread in front of the mirror. And I saw it from the other side of the gym. I was just like, because I remembered your bodybuilding show. I remembered you didn't look that big.
Stuck.
You were stuck. You're now unstuck. And it's not like you have bigger chunks of muscle there, but you're able to show that muscle because you have more access. I was at my girlfriend's show yesterday, and I haven't been to a show in a while, so it was cool watching these different athletes on stage, but you could literally see, now this, like, since I know what I was looking for, there are athletes that were more muscled, or maybe they had more muscle, but because they didn't have the ability to move well, when they were posing, they didn't have access to those, like, to show those muscle tissue. They didn't have access to that. So they look stiff, they look clunky, they didn't move well. And then there are other athletes who maybe they were a bit smaller, literally, they had less muscle, but they had better movement ability, and they had better ability to show the different muscle groups on stage, and they did better because why? They had more access. So it is something to think about.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now, we talk all about strength on this channel, but strength starts from the feet. That's why we've partnered with Vivo Barefoot shoes for over a year now. Now, Vivo Barefoot, unlike most shoes, number one, they look great, but number two, they're flexible. They're zero drop, and they have a wide toe box. If you wear these shoes over time, your feet will get stronger. Now, if you guys want to get some of these shoes, head to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject. Use code POWERVIVO20 at checkout to save 20% off your entire order. Enjoy this clip.
You need that access, like in the front and the back. So like, if let's say that your left hip gets tight, that's what's tight on me. That's why it's the example. Well, then it's a little harder for me to like kind of go to on my left side. It's hard for me to push off, and it's hard for me to, I was listening to this runner the other day saying, push with the tush. Like, that's how you're supposed to run. You're supposed to kind of push with your butt cheek. And people try to do stuff like with their quad and stuff. And he's like, The quad is just like a shock absorber. It just kind of happens to be there. And you want to pull with the hamstring and push with your butt cheek, basically. And so sometimes some of those movements at first are different for me because there's been so much tightness in the front of the hip. Well, because the front of the hip is somewhat limited, it will kind of bend you slightly forward. And over time, you'll start to lose access to the left glute. So the body, the body works like as this kind of synergistic unit. Mm-hmm. And in order for me, and the reason why that's happening, I'll explain it a little further, is if you are to flex your butt cheek as hard as you can and drive your hips forward, you might kind of see what I'm talking about, especially if you do so in like a lunge position. You'll feel a stretch directly in the front of your leg, hip flexor, those kinds of things. So when the hip flexor is real tight, well, now we don't have maximum contraction of that glute in the back. And back to Doug, so much of what he was trying to explain to us was being able to control the muscles, being able to tap into the muscles with exercises that he felt were effective. And he broke it down like from a scientific perspective. And he was talking about, analyzing the kind of the intensity that the muscle fibers were going through during specific movements. And these were things that he worked on for a long time. These are things that he worked through. Yes, he did sell a book, and yes, he did sell some ideas and concepts, but Nsima hit the nail on the head. People that are pioneers, I always say the first man through the wall gets bloody, and then other people can just charge right through the wall and be like, yep, and they'll be fine. They'll be unscathed. But the first guy that goes through is going to be the guy that takes a lot of the heat. And they're going to be like, this guy's an asshole. He's only trying to sell a book. I can't believe he's talking about bodybuilding and powerlifting this way. This is the way all this stuff has been forever, and this is the way it should always be. And you're like, well, it's only been that way because that's what everybody's used to.
Yeah.
If you have somebody new coming in, pointing out maybe some of the problems, it's actually a really good thing because now we can get into a discussion. Maybe some of the stuff that he said, maybe some of it's right. And then we can have conversation and say, you know what? He had a lot of really good points. Let's see if we can kind of blend that into some of these other things. I don't think these other things are bad. So can we do some of the Brig 20? Could we mix in some of those leg exercises that he pointed to? And could we also maybe towards the end of the workout hit up some squats? Because we like squats, it's what we're interested in. But now because we already tapped into the muscle fibers, maybe we'll get a little bit more out of our squats because we got a little bit of a pre-pump going.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I know you guys enjoyed the video, so like, comment, subscribe, and head to the Power Project Discord below. Talk to y'all later.